Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is JER and my pronouns are they, them.
Okay, nice to meet you. Um, uh, my bad.
Oh, you're good.
What are your biggest ups and downs as like an artist? And has there been any like big ups and downs with your backing band?
So the biggest ups and downs with the band in general is kind of like I don't want necessarily want to say like there are any like big downs. I guess the biggest down would be like being someone who does a lot of covers. A lot of times that gets overshadowed. I started doing the SKATUNE Network covers like almost a decade ago at this point, and I started doing my original music about like 4 years ago or so, 4 or 5 years ago. So sometimes like having that amount of people know that my covers exist and getting them on board with my original music, it's not necessarily a down, but it's just more of like a struggle that I have to go through. Getting a lot of the people on board are learning like what's the difference between the SKATUNE Network covers and my original music as JER. And then the ups is quite literally like I want to say just like touring and being able to play shows and connect with people in real life, especially like over the last few years, being in situations where we couldn't be around people in real life, like how like special and unique that experience really is, and in a world where we're so engulfed in our social media and technology and phones, to be able to connect with people in real life, I think is one of the biggest ups of just creating art in general has brought me.
That's honestly fucking awesome. Like I don't really see any band that like tours as much as you do. Do you get really exhausted doing that?
Oh yeah, I definitely get exhausted, and like on top of the fact that the JER band is doing a lot of touring, I tour with a lot of other bands as well. And over the last year or so, I've kind of taken a step back with how much I've been touring. But even then, it's still like I'm always on the road. And on top of that, I teach marching band, I teach drum corps, which is like professional marching band. So the last month of my life, I was on the road. Like instead of touring and playing DIY punk shows, I was touring, and then marching bands like that I teach are competing in football stadiums, and then we get on a bus and go to the next stadium. So I do spend a lot of my more time on the road than not on the road, and it can get tiring. Sometimes I just want to be in my bed and do nothing.
Yeah, I got what you mean. Just like wanting to just fucking chill out, like I don't know, for a long ass time. Do you have any like history of playing like DIY or house shows?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So the first show I ever went to was 2010. I was a sophomore in high school, and that was actually it was like a it's like weird because Less Than Jake was the band that played, so it wasn't like a DIY show. But Less Than Jake played because a DIY anime convention gave this dude a budget to like put on a DIY show, and there was a lot of money, so he just booked Less Than Jake. And then every other band was like a local DIY band, and then my second show ever was a backyard show in South Florida. So my introduction into live music actually was like aside from that first show was going to like backyard shows, DIY shows. I lived 2 miles from a DIY venue that was also across the street from my high school. So, and I ended up working at that venue in high school as well. So, like, my introduction was very DIY.
Ah, damn, you're so lucky to live like that close to like any venue. The closest venue to me, I frequent the underground. It's like a fucking 15-20 minute drive. So every single show is a full mission.
I know, and I feel that a lot of shows, like I grew up in South Florida, which is very sprawling. It's one of the biggest like metro areas in the country. And so some shows were like 40 miles away, and it was like a huge deal to try to get out to them. But having that venue there was definitely a huge plus. And the fact that I lived in the middle of the suburbs and there was a DIY venue that I could ride my bike to, and then the owner was like, yeah, you can just throw your bike in the garage. So like 15-year-old me was just on my bike, show up to the show, put my bike in the garage.
That's honestly so awesome. A lot of my questions are very poorly structured because I'm not very professional at this. I have a script like written down, but I'm very bad at words. So if anything comes off as like very poorly worded, that's my bad. That's on me.
Oh
Um,
no, you're doing great.
do you have any like I don't know, I want to ask you about like Seattle and Washington shows that you've played because that's where I'm from. Like I've
Yeah.
been in the Seattle and Tacoma underground scene like all the time. I just
hmm
wanted to ask you about like have you had any history here?
Yeah, so I've played Seattle before Where the Union was like the first time I played Seattle. We did that on the Bad Time tour. And then I played Seattle again with the JER band when we were touring with Fishbone, which I think the Fishbone tour was actually first before the We Are the Union one. I think they were like a couple months away from each other. But regardless, both shows were awesome. I really loved playing Seattle. SKATUNE Network also played Seattle. We played PAX West in 2021. So I played Seattle a few times, and I really love the energy up there. I know it's kind of like isolated and bands don't go there as often as other places, but people really show up for it and show out. And in particular, that JER show with Fishbone was still one of my favorite JER shows. Like that was the one where I think the most people knew the words, and the record had just come out like a couple months before that too. So like everyone knew the words, and people were really hyped, and like that was like one of the strongest connections I ever felt with an audience on stage. So I really love Seattle, and I hate that it's been so long since we've been there.
Yeah, you really need to come back, honestly. I like what you said, like not a lot of touring bands come through Seattle. In fact,
Hmm.
most touring bands I've noticed they go through Tacoma, which is the smaller city. But
Yeah,
there's not a lot of touring bands, but there's so many local bands where everyone just goes so hard. That's like,
yeah.
sorry, that's a little self promo for all the Seattle bands and all my Seattle homies. Um, do you still play house shows even though you're like massive?
Yeah, I mean, I'll still play a house show for sure. We've been talking about doing like an LA house show because there's like a huge like Latino ska scene down there. My keyboard player plays in Matamoska and he's from that East LA ska scene. And most shows they do out there are house shows. So we've talked about like if I ever get through California and I have the ability to do like a backyard show, which is something I really want to do. But honestly, like I'm always down for a good house show. It kind of gets to a point where as we're touring, we have to balance like being able to afford to be on the road and be able to like cover all of the logistics of it. But that's other than that, I'm super. I would rather play a backyard over like a huge House of Blues venue any day because like again, I grew like my first like 5 or 6 shows I ever went to were all house shows, and that's really the vibe that I rock with. I think that's like you get the coolest experience, the coolest connection with the audience and everything. And sometimes the highest energy is in someone's house or someone's backyard or basement.
Yeah, it's always just like such a surreal feeling. Like, I don't know, you just all of a sudden you're just standing like in someone's living room and then you can't hear and you just go and
Yep.
dance because I don't know, you're watching some loud punk band or some loud screamo band just fucking, I don't know, just tearing shit up in just someone's living room. Like you see
Yeah.
pictures on the walls of just like people's families. You're just like, how did I get here?
Yeah, literally, when I first moved to Gainesville, there was a house venue called Dexter Lab, and it was like just shows would pop off, hundreds of kids. The first one I went to there was a bonfire in the yard, but it was just a pile of trash that they lit on fire. And the fire was probably like 10 feet tall. Like, honestly, I'm surprised the house didn't burn down from that. But yeah, they would just have like hardcore bands playing in like the living room. And it was just a house these college kids were renting, and like they all graduated and left, and then the venue just like shut down. But we used to be have a huge house venue scene in Gainesville and Tallahassee, which is like 2 hours away. And both of them kind of fizzled away. So like there hasn't been like a lot of house shows in North Florida since then. Because Jacksonville used to have a huge house venue scene too.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Like the only scenes I've ever personally experienced are Seattle and Boise. So like
Hmm.
from what I've noticed, I don't it just you can really tell when a scene is like going up or going down because a scene never dies but always fluctuates so much.
Yep.
And like being in like a weird downflux, it's kind of it's kind of a little bit like sad, but also like then you know you're about to just hit like the biggest up in the scene ever. Like when I was in Boise, I think 3 weeks ago, um, tiny scene, but like kids were just tearing up for like the first band that went on, and like everyone was homies with each other, everyone knew each other, and genuinely the two shows I went to there are probably my favorite shows I've ever been to.
Yeah, I've wanted to get to Boise so bad. We're working on getting there next year, and like it's always hard, especially like when tours get bigger and I'm booking tours with like other bands that also have stays. But personally, like I'm like, yo, I'll play a house show. Like I'll book like a DIY show, and I also want to like hear about these like local bands in places like Tacoma or Boise, and it's like I want to book a show and have like local bands playing and supporting and like being part of that local scene as a touring band rolling through. Again, I like grew up working at a DIY venue, and like I worked every show for like at least a year. I worked every show at that venue, and it's like a band would roll through, we get locals on the show, and like people would tear it up, like you say. And it's like I love that vibe, and it makes me happy knowing that that vibe is like still around. Because as I've started touring with larger bands, I don't get as connected all the time with those local scenes. So to see that still a thing, it always makes me happy.
You were just saying like you want to hear about like Tacoma and Boise bands. I'm just gonna do a quick shout out of three bands that I think are deserving.
Let's
My
go.
my better half. They're this
Okay.
insane screamo band from Seattle. I wanna give a shout out. I'm wearing their shirt. I was at their show last night. It's my homie's band
Yo.
there, but here they're insane. They're gonna be the next big screamo thing. And in Boise, if you ever find yourself in Boise, you've got to check out the band John Gorbis.
Hmm.
It's I can't even put into words how their set feels, but it's the most intense thing I've ever experienced. So like if you're ever in those places, you gotta check those bands out.
Yo,
Um,
hell yeah.
that's just like me shouting them out. I mean the first two, they're kind of like my homies. So
Hmm.
that's like part of the reason I'm shouting them out. But John Gorbis, I don't know them like at all. Like I've met them because I was at two of their shows. Like I don't really know them at all. Like I don't have like a personal connection with them. Like that shout out is just coming from like pure just like envy of them.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I hope we can get up there sooner than later, and I hope I can have time to check out the bands in the area. But if not, like my goal is to like really start showing more love to the PNW, where it won't be like another 3 years. Because last time we played was 2022. So
Oh,
my goal is to
what?
not go. Yeah, it's been a while. I mean, like we tried doing some stuff last year and it fell through. We were supposed to do like we did a Southwest tour and it was supposed to go through the Northwest too, but like the Northwest chunk of it just like completely fell through.
Damn, that's sad. Fuck. All right. Um, what led you to playing ska music? Like I don't know, you're like royalty in the ska scene, in my opinion. Like you're massive and you're just like so talented with it. Like
Yeah,
what led
so
you to playing it?
I found ska through, ironically, the Digimon movie soundtrack. So that's like how I found out about the genre because Less Than Jake and the Boss Tones are on that soundtrack. And that whole soundtrack, honestly, it kind of rips. It's like all pop punk, um, like alternative and some ska. And I love the whole soundtrack. It was one of my gateways into alternative music, but the ska song stuck out to me. And so by the time I got to like high school, I knew I wanted to form a band. Like I feel like that's something I always wanted to do. I think it's because I grew up in a time where like pop punk was popular and like every show I watched had an episode where they form a band and enter a battle of the bands, and I'm like, yo, looking playing in a band looks like it's fun. I want to do that. And then I got to high school and like it was 2009 and no one was doing that. Like people just weren't forming bands like that in the mainstream. Um, but then I like started going to local ska shows, and the first show I went to, I talked to the members of the band, and they're like, "Yeah, we go to Dillard High School," and I'm like, "Y'all are in high school?" I was like, "You can be in high school and do this," and I was a band kid on top of that, so the marching band, I already played trumpet. I was like, I could just do this too. I could start playing ska music. And then it took me 2 years, but I ended up forming a ska band in high school and I started playing local shows. And that's kind of how it went. You know, like the scene in South Florida grew a lot and then it died out. And that's kind of when I started doing covers on my own. Like no one else was playing ska music. I didn't have like my band had broken up. My saxophone player moved to Japan and my trumpet player moved to LA. And like, we just kind of like broke up and fizzled away. Like, we never had a drummer. Our drummers kept quitting. And so then I just started like covering songs on my own, and that's kind of how I went into like that route of it. But it all just came from honestly like being exposed to it live after finding out about it through a movie soundtrack, and then getting involved in the scene, and then started playing the music that way.
That's like a really cool like backstory. Like I don't know, you don't ever really hear things like that. Especially with like when you like big famous bands, it's always glorified as like why they joined a band. Like they wanted to just be popular and be like the cool kids at school. But hearing like a real like true like raw story about why you wanted to start a band, that's really cool.
Yeah, and I feel like I grew up in an interesting time too, where it's like the wave of playing in bands was long gone by the time I became like a middle schooler. Like by the time I was like middle school, high school, and on top of that, I grew up in South Florida, which I think like added another layer of like there's a lot of Caribbean culture, and a lot of Caribbean people weren't listening to rock music. At least like their parents weren't. Like there's a lot of like kids my age who were listening to like stuff like that and going to Warp Tour, but like a lot of us weren't listening to, like, I didn't know many people who had a favorite band. So I was also like in an environment culturally that kind of differed from the rest of the country where we extra weren't listening to bands. Like people were listening more to like salsa or reggaeton or like these type of like Caribbean Latin genres more so than like rock or anything like that. So being in that environment, which also made it more special when I found the DIY scene and there were people making music and playing in bands, I was like, oh, this is dope. But like nobody was like, like the idea of playing in a band wasn't a thing that like would make you popular. I remember they tried doing a battle of bands at my school like three times, but there was only like one band in my school. And then they were like, well, it's just battle of the band. And like there's no bands to battle with. So it like never worked until like after I graduated.
That's I don't know, that's a funny ass story, honestly. Um, I want to hear about some like local bands from Gainesville, right?
Yeah, Gainesville, but I'm also from South Florida. So like there's lots of honestly, I'm not as tapped in with Gainesville right now because being a college town, bands break up and form all the time and move away and stuff. So there's like a lot of new bands right now, but I've been touring a bunch, so I haven't really been to enough shows to even be as tapped in with a lot of these new bands as I could be. But I could tell you about bands in Jacksonville, Orlando, South Florida, all over Florida, basically.
I want to hear about those like small little bands, like I don't know, the ones that have like I don't know, like a few hundred monthly listeners, like just like the really small ones that no one knows about.
Yeah, I mean, so let me see, like so what's like a really, really small band? I feel like a lot of the bands that I am inclined to talk about or I can think off the dome right now are like they're not necessarily like super, super small. They're doing some stuff, but they're definitely not like huge. Like there's two bands from Orlando that we played with a couple years ago, Flowers for Emily and 0 miles per hour. Um, they both are kind of doing like they started out like one of them started out doing kind of like Midwest emo, but now they're doing a lot more like grungy, like kind of title fight sounding type stuff. And Flowers for Emily is a lot more like screamo and stuff. So those are two bands that are super dope. They've toured a bit, but they don't have like a ton of monthly listeners, not like anything over like, I mean, I'm just gonna check right now because now I'm actually curious. But those are two bands from the Orlando area. Trying to think of some other bands from around. Yeah, 0 miles per hour has 3,000 monthly listeners. So they're not like huge, huge, huge right now. Um, they also just recently dropped something. So I know they're getting a little bit more buzz. And then Flowers for Emily, let me see where they're at. Flowers for Emily is at 10,000. When did that happen? Well, good for them. Heck yeah, they deserve it. So, yeah, what are some other bands? He shouts out to Glazed. Glazed is from Jacksonville. We played recently with them and Guilt. Glazed is like a pop punk band. Guilt is also like a screamo band.
Wait,
Um,
I think I've heard of Guilt before.
you might have. Guilt was touring a bunch over the last few years. So
Wait, hold up. I wanna look this up. I want to see if it's the same Guilt because that's like I feel like that's kind of like a common like band name. But
yeah, yeah, it's GILT.
ILT. I'm thinking of a different Guilt. Ugh.
Word.
But it's the same like screamo-y kind of genre, like
Yeah.
hardcore like screamo.
hmm Yeah, some of the members of Guilt also play in a band called Second Impact as well. So like there's a lot of like cross band things happening right now. In South Florida, there's a band called Graves as well. They're from Miami, I believe, and another band called Dime. Those are also two bands that kind of sit in that range as well. So honestly, Florida, there's so much happening in Florida right now where I could just like keep going. And there's a lot of bands that are local and they've been doing the thing since I've been in high school. And then a lot of local bands that are forming like in the last couple years as well.
I always love to see like a new band and then they get like so immediately popular. Like there's one band in the Seattle scene. They're called Circa 40. They're like screamo. They're like
hmm
they're kind of the kings of the Washington emo scene at the moment. But they released an album just over a month ago and they're at like 30,000 monthly listeners.
That's
Um
wild.
and they did like a little tour. They went around to California, all the way to like Salt Lake City. I
hmm
was able to catch them in Boise, like a couple weeks ago. I was able to like catch them on their tour, and they were fucking killing it. They played to a record store of like no more than 30, 40 people. Like it was very small and like not even close to sold out. But they fucking killed it and it was such like they have such like an intense love for the music that they had me in tears by the end of the set.
Yo, that's awesome.
I love emo. I shout out any emo band like ever.
Yo, I feel that. Yeah, I mean, part like I as I was going to ska shows coming up, like the South Florida scene was very like mixed genre. Like it wasn't out of the ordinary to see like ska bands playing with emo bands or hardcore bands or pop punk bands. So like I kind of just ended up being in all those scenes, especially working at a venue where the most shows I went to were like emo shows. And there's some bands that I saw back in the day. Some bands I missed out on. Like I had the chance to see Title Fight at like a small venue in like 2009 and 10. I've seen Title Fight before. I've seen them like I think twice. But I had the chance to see them when they were like super super small, like before they dropped Floral Green or anything like that. And La Dispute, I had a chance to see them. But when I worked at that venue, like I saw Touche and More like 20 times or something. Like I saw them so many times. Um, Balance and Composure, I saw them a bunch. I saw Tiny Moving Parts on their first tour, literally their first tour. They played to like 30 people, which is really, really wild. So there's a lot of bands that I ended up seeing. Like I feel fortunate being in that like early 2010s emo era, like just seeing so many bands back then.
Yeah, I what I would give to go and see like one of those big bands like before they got like really popular. Like
Yep.
I've seen like big emo bands. Like I've seen February in a place we've always been. Um,
Hmm.
but like what I would give to see them when they're like so small and just like purely passionate about their music.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. That's like you should have seen Title Fight. I don't even care about Title Fight. Like I cannot name a single Title Fight song. I can't name their albums. I can't recognize any of their songs. But like being able to be a part of that history, I think would make it a lot more special. Like seeing a
Oh yeah.
band when they're small, it's so much better than seeing a band when they're like huge.
Yeah. Well, there's another one band that I did see that is huge now. I saw them three times, a Turnstile, because they used to tour to the venue I worked at a bunch, and like I saw them play two shows at the Talent Farm, which is the venue I worked at, and then I saw them play one show in Churchill's, which was a bar in Southland, Miami, and then the next time I saw them was opening for My Chemical Romance in a 90,000 cap arena. So it was a
Holy shit.
10 year gap between those, but yeah, there's actually a video online of Turnstile playing at Talent Farm in like I want to say 2012, 2013, sometime around then. And the microphone goes out at the end of a song, and it was my job to give him the other microphone. So like I kind of just appear on stage. Like if I didn't point it out, you wouldn't know it's me. But I just give him the microphone, and then I'm just like, well, there's only one way to get off the stage, and then I just do a two-step, and then I stage dive off the stage because what else
That's
do you do when you're on stage at a hardcore show?
holy shit. I'm gonna look for that video right after this. I'm gonna search far and wide to find that video because that's like an important piece of history. Like JER before they got big. When I don't know.
Yeah,
That's
there's so many like little instances of like me pop because like I worked at this venue and like I did so much there. Like there was the Story So Far had a show at that venue, didn't sell out. It was the Story So Far and Man Overboard, and some other bands I can't remember from like that pop punk era. And I remember my boss just being like, "Hey, like we ordered pizza for the Story So Far, and they're gonna take some with it, but they can't take all of it. Can you help them eat this pizza?" And I'm like. I feel like there's so many pop punk kids who would die for their job to eat pizza with the Story So Far, and I'm just doing this thing. It was actually kind of funny more than it was just like I'm getting free food. Like,
yeah. It's just like I don't know. Like when you're just sitting there after a show and then you're just like talking to this like massive person in like the underground scene, and you're just like talking to them like it's a normal like everyday thing. Like that's just it's always a crazy feeling. Like this is a
hmm.
crazy feeling right now for me. Like very, very surreal, hard to believe it's like I'm genuinely talking to SKATUNE Network or JER. But I don't know that I love those kind of stories where it's just like those little like tiny things and I feel like everyone would want to hear those stories.
Yeah, and I mean like that's also like why I always try to encourage people to like get involved. Obviously, the more people that get involved in like local music, the better the scenes do, the better everyone does. But also the fact that like I know a lot of people like when I was in high school, I used to work at the talent farm and be like, hey, like y'all like pop punk, y'all like, I don't know, like Mayday Parade or whatever. So I'm like, you should come to this venue, like these bands are playing. And like those same friends that didn't want to go to those shows are now going to Warped Tour for, or like when we were Young Fest, and they're like, I get to see the Story So Far play. I never got to see them when I was in high school. And I'm like, yeah, because you didn't go to the show. Like I remember inviting you to the show, like you didn't care when it was like my band opened for Modern Baseball, and so many of my friends who would kill to see Modern Baseball now, like, and it's so funny the way that happened had nothing to do with Modern Baseball. We got offered to open for Real Friends because they were on tour with Candy Hearts and Stick Up Kid, which like I feel like none of those bands got like super huge, honestly. But Modern Baseball was just on to their first tour, and they just needed a show to play that day. So they got added to the bill like a week before the show, and it was their first tour. They had just posted, I think Sports was the record onto Tumblr, so it didn't even blow up yet. So no one knew this band, but I remember seeing it on Tumblr, being like, "Oh, I'm playing with that band," and like that's a lot of notes. And then yeah, like we like my high school ska band literally played with Modern Baseball, and I had invited so many friends to that show, and they were like, "No, we're gonna pass." And now they're all like, "Damn, I wish I went to see Modern Baseball." And I'm like, "You could have if you just went to the local show." Like the show didn't even sell out, which is crazy. It was a 250 cap room. Like,
Damn, this is the stupidest question. Modern Baseball, they're the ones who did your graduation, right?
yes.
Okay. I wanted to make sure I wanted to make sure on that because I'm not the most familiar with them.
Hmm.
I love emo music, but I have a slight problem with really only listening to like underground bands. Like
I feel
I
that.
don't play a lot of like big bands because it's so cool like listening to this band like oh like that's my homie's band and then they're getting like so big and like famous but like I want to ask about SKATUNE Network covered your graduation. What led you to do that?
Yes. That one was actually requested. So a lot of my covers are requested on Patreon. And I knew I was doing the Skygo's emo series. So I was like, what else can I do for Skygo's emo? And that one was requested a few times. And like being like I enjoy modern baseball. I used to listen to them a lot more, especially like back when they were like touring a lot more. So the fact that I was like, all right, I already know this song. It's a banger and I think it'll do well. And so I covered it, and yeah, it did well. I think it came out really great. That was a really fun one, and I think a great opening to the second volume of that record, or of that series, I should say.
I like the cover a bit more than the original.
Yeah,
It
I appreciate that.
it's just there's something about it that's like it's so like up and like ska funky, but you can also
Hmm.
just still feel that like emo vibe to it, and it hits all the right notes. Like the original is amazing, but I think there's a lot of covers you've done that are genuinely better than the original. Like
I
no
appreciate
diss
it.
to Weezer, but like your Buddy Holly cover, so much fun. It's probably one of my most played songs as of recent. Or
Yo, thank you.
Prom Queen was a great one. Basket Case, that was a really good.
Hmm.
Was that
Yo,
on
thank you.
Chicago's emo?
Yes, yeah, all of those are on the first volume of Skago's email with the blue cover.
Okay, yeah, I thought I know my shit. I know my shit well enough. I
Yo,
know my
hell
shit
yeah.
enough, but still gotta double check it.
I feel that.
Um, do you like listen to those original songs that you cover like a lot? Like, are you like, are do you listen to like Weezer a lot?
I don't listen to Weezer a ton. It depends on the band, honestly. I've listened to Weezer. They're probably a band that I could listen to now, and enjoy it more than like 10 years ago or something like that. Um, but it depends on the band. Like Beach Bunny is a band I listen to a lot. I really like Beach Bunny. They were one of my most listened to bands like 2 years ago. Green Day I found late because since I was backdoored into like DIY punk. There's a lot of like bigger bands that I missed out on when I was like in adolescence, and like I knew like their hits, but I never like got too super deep into them. I discovered Dookie when I was like 20 or 21 or something like that.
That's
Like
crazy.
really like got into it, like listened to the whole record, and so like I feel like Green Day is one of those bands where like they have so many records where I don't like going into a band and listening to a bunch of records, like going record at a time and stuff. And so like I've definitely listened through a few of their records, and over time appreciated them more and more for what they're doing. But yeah, it really depends. Some I try not to cover things I don't like. Um, if someone requests a song and I'm like, I don't like that song, I'm probably not going to cover it, honestly. Um, but I also haven't really gotten any covers where I'm like, I absolutely don't like this. But it also depends on just how I'm feeling. Like the last year of my life, I was listening to a lot more jazz and hip hop than anything else. Versus like 2 years ago, I was listening to a lot more um, like Indian alternative stuff.
I want to talk about your album that just got released today, but I
Yes.
have one more question about covers really quick before we get into that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Um, you haven't released your American Idiot cover yet, right?
I haven't. It's only the YouTube video.
Are you ever gonna release that on like streaming platforms?
Yeah, probably. So my plan with those is like eventually to get them everything onto streaming. It's like kind of a process to get things on streaming that requires like both time and money. That I do not have either of those right now, especially while releasing a record of original music. It's kind of like whenever I put energy into putting covers on streaming, it does take away from like my ability to tour and my ability to like cover all of the expenses of everything else. So that's a big reason why I haven't really uploaded anything to streaming as far as covers go. Like I don't think I uploaded a single cover to streaming last year. But my goal is to kind of really hone in on that now that the record's out. Is to hone in on my covers, hopefully grow the Patreon a little bit more because the Patreon really is the thing that like allows me to get more covers onto streaming. So, but that's definitely one where I would like to get onto streaming for sure.
Like, I want to talk about your album really quick, but so fast, I have to go grab something because I forgot it. That's my
Oh yeah, for
bad.
sure.
I'll be back in like 1 minute.
Oh yeah, no worries.
I deeply apologize. I forgot to grab my phone charger because I have my phone right here, recording audio just in case the computer audio gets like bugged, and my phone is
Oh yeah,
dying.
no worries.
But what was the creative process on like making your new album? How long did it like take?
That's a great question. So the bulk of the album process of writing the songs happened in the back half of last year. Some songs on the record, let's see, What Will You Do and Claim Your True Feelings. Those songs are probably like 4 years old. I wrote the instrumental to Claim Your True Feeling right around the time I wrote the first record, actually. And originally, like, I wrote that for a possible like Midwest emo band that I was working on. And then I just ended up like not really like doing anything with that. Like, I'm Still Bothered. I wrote that song like 3 years ago. Mostly like half of it. I wrote like half of it 3 years ago. What Will You Do as well? And all of those songs that have like different vibes to them. So I was like, I'm not sure if I want to use this for the record, but as the record started coming together, I finished those songs and realized it is cohesive to like what the record is. But the bulk of it, I started demoing around like September of last year, and that was all the way through like February or January, and then we went to the studio March 1st. It's been 6 days in the studio where we recorded the whole record. So the writing process was sporadically over the last 3 years, but really from late 2024 all the way through when we went to the studio March of this year.
I want to talk about your song "The Way You Tune It Out." Do you think there's a reason why that's your most popular song?
Definitely it going viral is just part of it. There's always like this chance of like sometimes a song will just hit the right time at the right place, um, in the right format, and then it gets in front of a lot of people. I definitely think that a lot of the songs on the record have the potential to also do that, but that song is also very like It's very fast. It's very both in the sense of like the tempo is very high energy, which people like, but also it kind of just gets to the next section. And like I feel like it's hard, ironically, it's hard for people to like tune out listening to it because like the song finishes before it overstays its welcome. Um, and that's like a big goal of mine with writing this record. Like I didn't want any song to feel like it's too long or drawn out, but I feel like with the pacing of it and how simple it is, it's very easy to kind of catch the theme, get stuck in your head without it getting annoying, and the song finishes before anyone can have a moment to even be like, okay, I've had enough of this.
Yeah, I don't know. I love it because it's so like catchy and also like yeah, I really like fast songs and I think a lot of people are like that because attention spans are so impossibly like short nowadays. That's like it's something that's just like fast and catchy and especially because like I wouldn't say you're like too punk, but I could definitely see some like punk influences, and you definitely pull sort of like a punk crowd. And punk is entirely just fast paced, in your face, like
Hmm.
over and out, like before you even know it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's something I keep in mind. Like I feel like with my first record, I as I finished the record, I didn't mean to do this, but I was like the first track is the fastest track, and no track gets as fast as that one. And so like I kind of wanted to have like the opposite effect with this record with that, where it's like I want those songs, especially like transitioning live. We ended up speeding up the tempo of a lot of the songs live, and I was like, I want to avoid that and just like play the songs how they would be played live on the record, which we did record like the rhythm section live together at the same time. And that helped with the energy of it. And I think that is also why it translates over, where that was the first impression of me recording a song with a live band. Everything I've ever released, whether it's a SKATUNE cover, any old JER music, any other band I play in, it's always been like recorded drums, then bass, then guitar, then keys, where that was just like, we went in the studio and as like a band, we just hit record and played the song, and like we like pieced things together. Like the horns were added later, the vocals were added later, but the bulk of what you're hearing was all done at one time.
That's that's honestly pretty awesome. Like, I don't know, it's like so usually I mean like usually songs are recorded like instrumentals and then vocals and then all that shit and you have to like put it together, but just being able to like all record it at once, it's like that's probably why it has such like a unique sound to it.
Hmm.
Now I want to
Absolutely.
talk
I got
about
that from,
my bad. No,
oh,
no,
I was
can
gonna say, yeah, I got that from Jeff Rosenstock, who Jeff recorded at the same studio. So it's the same engineer that did Jeff Rosenstock and Gouge Away, if you're familiar with Gouge Away as well, and Omnicon, which is another Bad Time band. So I actually heard all of those bands, and I was like, I love how all of these bands sound. And when I found out that they were all produced by the same person, I was like, oh, that makes sense. I'm just gonna go to Jack, because Jack apparently is producing every band that I love. And I talked to him, and he's like, yeah, it's because they all play their song. They hit record, they play the song. That's the way great bands did it 50 years ago. That's the way Jack does it now. So I'm like, that's a good point. All the good bands knew how to play their instruments.
that's really nice. I'm so glad I didn't accidentally cut you off because that was like really like that was good to hear. I want to
Oh
talk
no,
about
you're
the
good.
song "Say Gay" or "Say Goodnight" because it's
Hmm.
so intensely like outwardly political. Do you face any backlash for like releasing that song when living in like a more red state? Like I'm from Seattle, like being gay is everywhere. Like
Hmm.
it's almost like not even a minority, but like being I can't imagine like being from a red state and like releasing that kind of thing.
Yeah, so like I feel like the idea is like people think that this state is a lot more conservative than it is, and a big part of it is more so of like Ron DeSantis only won by less than 20,000 votes, in 2018, and then he restructured the voting districts to make the voting balance very uneven. And like the reality is like gained like Orlando is like one of the gayest cities I've ever been to. Like I've been to every city in this country, and Orlando, Florida is like gay as hell. Like it's so gay. Um, and then every other city is also like that. Like Wilton Manors in Fort Lauderdale is a huge gay neighborhood. It's actually one of the most like prominent nightlife gay scenes in the entire country. Um, Gainesville, this is like a college town, but like it's a very like queer town. But on top of that, it's also a very diverse state. You know, it's like you have the Caribbean diaspora. There's a huge black population in the northern half of the state, as well as in Miami. So you have all of these different backgrounds and ethnicities and cultures that come together. They're just like misrepresented throughout the state. So dropping the song, honestly, like whenever we played it at shows, even like playing for like bigger punk bands, like people are really about it. The most negative backlash we got was probably like when we played with Suicide Machines and Against All Authority, which are like two punk bands from the 90s. Um, and we played to like, I don't know, probably like 500, 600 people. And there were some people who were mad, but there was definitely more people who weren't mad than people who were mad in the room. But also, like every time we play with older punk bands, regardless whether it's California or Florida or anywhere, that's the same reaction. Like somebody emailed us when we played with Fishbone in California. We played a show in California, and someone emailed Bad Time Records basically being like, I hate all of the woke shit that this band is pushing. Like, I came to this show and I felt attacked for my political ideology. And like, honestly, we've gotten more pushback in California than any other state when it comes from like being overtly political.
I I gotta say, I think I've never been in the California scene, but I feel like that has to do with I have friends who are like in the California scene or who frequent California a lot. And it's because they've always told me that like LA has like a massive poser problem where like everyone just goes to these underground shows to like party and have fun and do all this instead of actually standing like with the ideology. But also,
Yeah,
I think it's kind of crazy like going to a punk show and then being mad when it's political.
I
Like
know.
that's crazy.
Yeah, and like I feel like with LA is interesting too because like you have like an underground punk scene, but like the punk scene that's dope in LA is like the Latino scene, but like the Latino scene is often overlooked probably because they're Latino for the punk scene that is like those posers, and like half of those posers their parents are rich or they moved to California and they're not even actually from LA. Like the Latino scene in LA that has been there for generations, like that's where like the punk shit is like really fucking dope, but it's so like segmented and fragmented from it, which like again coming from Florida, like the punk scenes overlapped a lot. Like there weren't really like a Hispanic scene or Latino scene, and then like the like a white scene. It was just like the punk scene, you know. And like that's something I've noticed going to California, where I'm like everything seems so segmented, even within the music scenes, even within the genres. Like again, my ska band was playing like the band Gouge Away, like they formed in South Florida, and like some of our first shows we played together. Like, and Gouge Away is like a well, it used to be a hardcore band, but now they're more like a screamo, like grunge band. But like they have like this sound that is so different from like my high school ska band that sounded like less than Jake and Real Big Fish. But we played shows together, and like that's just the way that it was back then, you know. And it still is that way. Like last time I played South Florida, we had a pop punk band on the show, a ska band. The time before that, we had a screamo band and a pop punk band. Like it's always so fluid in Florida and the Florida scene in general. But not everyone's like that. So yeah, you do. And like the poser thing, I definitely have seen that with my own eyes.
Yeah, I've heard like horror stories from LA because it's the scene is so massive. Like it's a huge city. There's so many like young people that I don't know how other scenes are with this because I've only experienced Seattle and Boise, which are relatively like small, but like
Hmm.
people are really held accountable for their actions. Like if you say something bad, if you do something bad to someone, you're getting called out, you're like not welcome anymore. But I heard this story, LA, someone stabbed two people in the pit and just faced no repercussions or anything, was like never really like found out. And it's just
Yeah.
it really sucks to hear about that because I don't know. This might be kind of like a hot take, but I think every subgenre needs a level of gatekeeping to keep people like that out.
Hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, like you know, if you make the space open for everybody, but then you allow people who then make the space not safe for everybody, then it becomes a space not for everybody. It's like the what is it called? The paradox of intolerance is what it is. It's like you have to be intolerant to the intolerant, you know?
Yeah. Like you have to really hold people accountable for their actions and like not everyone is welcome. But like it's you're not welcome if you're a bad person. Like
Yeah,
I don't know, it's not like misogyny or racism or anything like that. Like if you're a bad person, then you're not welcome. But like
yeah,
people won't really not welcome you due to like racist ideology. Like that doesn't happen
yeah.
that much, I think. I'm not sure.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, it depends like where what people also consider to be again like that type of ideology. You know, some people might be like, "Hey, can I touch your hair?" They might think that's like an okay thing because they're like, "Why would you be upset about that?" And I'm like, you shouldn't go around touching people's hair. That's kind of weird. Also, you're only touching my hair because it's like a black hair. You're not thinking about that as like racist. But some people don't think that's racist, you know? Or like some people will lock their hair even though they're white. And it's like that's there's a very like long conversation and deep history on like why that's racist. But there's a lot of people, and I've seen it punk scenes of all calibers that do this, where I'm like, that is kind of like an inherently racist thing. Like you're not saying you hate black people, but you're doing a thing that does hurt black people in a covert way that you might not see or feel yourself. And the question is like, at what level are we tolerating that like racism? Is racism only presented in a I hate black people way, or is racism presented in a I'm doing an action that might not be saying I hate black people, but in the long run, it is hurting black people. Same thing like with women. Like you could say like I hate women, but like you could also say I don't hate women, but then you do something that like hurts women in a whole, and that can go for like queer people. That can go for like all of these groups of people.
Yeah, and I people really need to like learn about that kind of thing. Like I feel like that's kind of a problem is people don't know when they're being like subtly like racist or homophobic or like a misogynist. Like they don't think they're being that, but like they needs to be more accountability even for the small stuff. Like not like huge
Yeah.
accountability. Like if you do something or say something wrong like on accident, like I don't think you should be like kicked out of the scene, but like you should
Hmm.
be held accountable and taught differently.
Yeah, well, I mean, that like at the end of the day, that's what accountability is. You know, it's like sometimes we get it construed as like accountability is like punishment, and it's always coming from a place of like, oh, this person is always having these nefarious intentions. And sometimes like people just don't know. Sometimes it's just the way that they've been taught. Like we're all raised in a society that kind of sucks, and we've all been raised to think things that suck. And if we're not making the space for people to like learn, hey, maybe this thing's not cool, let's grow from it, let's become better. Like if we're not creating that space, then we're not really creating a space where everyone can be accountable. So like yeah, I agree, sometimes people just need to be told like, hey, that thing's kind of whack. But there's oftentimes people don't bring it up, or they try to like gloss over it, and then it starts to snowball into like a bigger problem, you know? The mildly weird comment this dude makes today could be the incredibly misogynistic comment of tomorrow. And had we checked this dude about his weird comment about someone's weight or something this day, being like, yo, dude, talking about people's bodies isn't cool like that, then that could have like stopped the pipeline of this dude eventually like making really obscene comments about some woman's body tomorrow, you know?
Yeah, like you have to stop it before it starts like snowballing into this huge thing, and then that person's like, I've always been saying this kind of thing. Why is it bad now? And it's like, because I don't like that kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
I'm not very like good with articulating words about that, but I don't know. I'm bad with that kind of thing. Um, yeah, I don't know what I was saying.
Oh no, you're good. You're all good. I think you're doing great.
Thank you so much. This next one is just gonna like move on to like some more lighthearted things because it was a very like good and like passionate part of it, but this part's gonna
Hmm.
be like more like lighthearted and that kind of thing. Like, but like, what has it been like to get so big? Like tens of thousands of monthly listeners touring all over the US. I don't know if you've toured other countries, but I know you've toured the US like a lot.
Yeah, I've only played Canada twice, and each one was like just its own show. That was its own thing. But it feels interesting because like I feel like when I didn't expect SKATUNE Network to ever get as big as it did. And as it got big, it didn't even feel like it was like like a big thing, you know? Like people tell me things like, "Oh, I like listened to you through high school." And I'm like, I mean, well, it feels like I've been doing this for like 2 years, but really it's been 8. The fact that someone could have been listening in high school and is now like a fully functioning adult to me, like it's just things like that where I'm like, oh yeah, that's like a thing, you know? Like at the end of the day, I'm still like a human who is room is a mess and I have to cook for myself. And most of the time I'm just thinking about being a human and I put things online and stuff like that. But um translating into like touring and having like people listen to my music, sometimes it's like today being a day where like I drop my record and I'm like there's a lot of people that care about this thing that I do, and sometimes it can feel isolating. The internet is a weird medium to be on because like parasocial relationships and how we're perceived isn't always how we are and stuff like that. It's always like kind of weird. And I feel like the more I continue in the music industry, the more I continue doing art and growing and stuff like that, the more I'm like, oh wow, like we get to these levels and like you're still just like a human, like existing and making art and stuff like that. So I don't know if that's like the best answer to that question, but I'm just like I still feel like I'm just like another human, another person doing the thing.
Do you ever have this like you go about your day like any normal person, but then do you ever just get that feeling like wow, like I have like a huge like following and like people like know who I am? Is that ever like a weird feeling?
Sometimes it's weird more so like 'cause I never think about it like necessarily like that because there's a lot of people that follow me, and this is something that I talk about a lot with people in general, where it's like, you know, I have more followers than a lot of bands. Like I was looking at Jeff Rosenstock's social media today, and I was like, I have almost 3 times the followers as Jeff Rosenstock on Instagram, which is wild. But if I went on tour and played a city, I'd maybe sell like a couple like 100, 200 tickets in a city. Jeff Rosenstock is selling thousands of tickets in cities, you know? So like, and that's the thing about like Jeff has spent years building up what he does in a very like organic human person to person way where like I have a lot of numbers that have come from like virality. It's more of like content creator, like influencer type numbers where people might follow my page and then forget I exist type thing. And I always tell people, I'm like, you can take a zero off of all of my socials, and that's kind of a truer number of where I'm at. Whereas an artist like Jeff Rosenstock, like all 90,000 people that follow him, they are super bought into what he's doing. And same thing goes with like Less Than Jake. I have more followers than like Less Than Jake. I have more followers than like Real Big Fish. I have more followers than all of these bands. And yet I definitely cannot pull the numbers that they do when it comes to like touring. So like that is a big difference that comes from an artist like me and an artist like them, where they have the longevity of like lifelong fans who are they've grown up with the band. Like I was in middle school when I found Less Than Jake and like have been a fan of them like since then. You know, like I grew up with Less Than Jake too. Granted, their career was already like massive, but like they put out like 6 records since I found them, or 7 records. Like so there is that difference, but sometimes I'll just be like, I don't know, at like a coffee shop getting coffee, and the person's like, "Oh, you're SKATUNE Network," and I'm like, "Oh, that's weird. You just like know who I, you know who I am." Oh my goodness. So like, there also are instances like that where I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's the thing, the niche micro celebrity experience where I can still go into public, and most of the time it's normal." But even if someone like I've been in the airport and someone like recognizes me, like one time like my flight landed and the person next to me was like, "Are you SKATUNE Network?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, I didn't want to start the flight by saying that. And if you weren't, then it'd be a very awkward 3 hours. But if I said at the end of the flight and you weren't, it'd be an awkward 5 minutes. So like I was like, yeah, that's me. So like, yeah, the guy sitting next to me on the flight like followed me. Sometimes that happens. So it's not like Chapel Roan who can't go into public, you know, ever without being bombarded by paparazzi. And like I have like 6 friends who have seen Chapel Roan and taken a picture with her because like that's chaperone. You go out in public, someone's gonna recognize you. Like definitely not there yet, but it's definitely like, oh, I do get surprised, like, oh, this person does recognize me.
Yeah, you're like a very like recognizable person. Like if I saw you on the street, I think I would know like pretty immediately. Not,
Hmm.
I mean, I'd probably be too scared to like go up and talk to you, but I don't know. You're like a very like recognizable like person and like personality. Like I don't know. Every time, like even before I like really started listening to you, like every time I would see one of your videos online, I'd be like, oh, like I know this person. Like it's always the really funky two step. I like how you two step. It's like a lot of fun and very recognizable because I don't see anything else like it. That's like a
Word,
very like,
hell yeah.
small, minute detail, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of people, me included. I'm throwing myself way under the bus here. There's a lot of people who are like really bad at two-stepping, but like you got that down.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I used to be so bad at it for so long. I remember going to hardcore shows like in like high school, and I was like, I can't figure this out. And when I finally figured it out, I was like, oh, it all makes sense now. But it took me a while to get the two step down, honestly.
Yeah, but like it's just like a very like recognizable, like fun, like personality. And I don't know, like I obviously I've never met you in person, but I feel like you just talking to you right now, like I feel like you would still like radiate that like super like fun and positive energy.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Um, this next one, I wrote the name of your album down wrong because I was listening to music, watching TV, and I was reading something else, and it says Heart of Days. Um, I know it's Death of Heart, but that's my bad. Um, so what's like your creative process on Death of Heart?
So the creative process was demoing a lot of songs, basically like I get influenced by stuff and then I just start writing basically. I pop open Logic, I start making a drum beat around the idea in my head, and then I just start tracking guitar to it. Most of the songs they flow pretty naturally. I'll have an idea in my head and it's pretty formulated, and I'll like sit down in one session, maybe like 2 hours, 3 hours, sometimes all day. And I'll like do all the drums, guitar, bass, I'll add the horns. Vocals sometimes take longer. I'll track like what lyrics I do have, and if I don't have like full lyrics, I'll either leave it blank, and then I'll like export it and I'll like listen to it like when I'm on runs, when I'm driving, like so I can like get the lyrics flowing a little bit more and get the idea of how I want them to fit. And then once I finish out all the lyrics, then the song is demoed, and I basically did that for every song on the record. And then I sent the record out to everybody. And since this was our first time ever recording the record this way, like going into the studio, none of us knew what was actually going to happen recording a record live. Like we were like, if we mess up, do we have to restart the whole song like every time and stuff, which we didn't. We were able to like punch in and fix mistakes, except for drums. Drums had to get it. If drums messed up, we had to start the song over. So Woody had the tallest order out of everybody. But we were able to go and fix mistakes. Like I think probably between keys, guitar, and bass, we fixed probably like 10 things throughout the record each. But for the most part, we got it down. We had a rehearsal where like we got together and we just like ran all 15 songs for like 5 hours or something like that. Got everything down, and then we went in the studio the next day and tracked like literally the whole record in 2 days, basically, like on the rhythm section part of it at least. So the process is like demo a bunch, and then I send the songs to everyone, and everyone like learned them and listened to them, made notes and stuff. And then we came together, rehearsed the songs, and then went in the studio and recorded all of them to the like either to the demos or like just to a click track where we just played the song. Some of them weren't even recorded to a click track. Some of them we just hit record and played the song. So
That's awesome, honestly. That's also very like impressive that you were able to like do that. Um, I'm speaking from like pretty much no experience, but like it's very hard to get it right with a band every time. Like it's a very
yes.
difficult thing.
Yeah, and like that's a big reason why the JER band is the JER band in particular. It's like the musicians that I chose because it's like there's not a ton of people where like the vibe is right and they can play the instrument at like that caliber, and they can play like the styles because like I mix a lot of styles, like I'm playing hardcore and ska and reggae and emo and all of this, and like I want people who can actually all like play the styles in a way that isn't like, oh, I can tell you don't normally play ska because the way you're playing like the drum beat here sounds weird, or like I could tell you normally don't play like hardcore because the way you're doing this. Like everyone has a good understanding of all these genres in the JER band, and we all live in different states. Like Ricky lives in California, Esteban lives in Portland, Woody, me and M, we live in Florida, but Woody lives in Tampa and I live in Gainesville with M. So it's like we all have to fly in to Oakland where we recorded the record. And part of like the ability to like fly in and rehearse once and then get the songs down is like the caliber of musicianship that is the JER band. Also musicianship, and just like they're all like homies of mine. Like I'll ride or die for any of them.
Yeah, could you real quick just like you just said all their names, but could you put names to instruments for your band?
Yeah, so the JER band is Woody Bond on drums, M. Williams on tenor sax, as well as Barry sax and vocals on the record. Ricky Weber plays guitar. Esteban Flores plays keys, but also did additional percussion, guitar, and what was the other thing that Esteban did? Percussion, guitar, and keys. Actually, I think those are the only things that Esteban did on the record. And then I did all of the bass, trombone, as well as vocals, of course. And then I did some additional keys, guitar. I think that's all I did on the record. So I did a lot of filling stuff in as well throughout the record, but like not a lot. Like I played guitar like once, and I played keys like once on the record. So, but yeah, that's the studio JER band that did all of that. We normally have a trombone player and a bassist who plays with us, and that can vary between like what tour we're on and stuff like that. But that's like the core band that recorded the record. And if I'm ever playing a show, it's likely going to be like them playing in the band.
That's awesome. Do you know how to play all those instruments yourself?
Yeah, I can play like saxophone. I can play. Basically, if you ever see it in a SKATUNE Network video, like it's unless someone else is in the video, like I'm the one playing those instruments. So keys, bass, guitar. I can play drums too. Not super well, but like I can hold a beat. I've played drums for a local band once. They needed a drummer, and I just played the set for them. So I can play well enough to play in a local band, that's for sure.
Okay, yeah, I was pretty sure of that, but like I wasn't 100% sure on that, but like that's an insane level of talent to be able to produce songs by yourself that genuinely sound like it's a whole band playing together and it's just you like playing. That's like insanely impressive. And for like all the songs that SKATUNE Network has ever played, like it's I don't know how many albums, but it's quite a few. Like it's a decently big number and like a lot of songs and just knowing like that's all one person, that's genuinely just kind of like crazy.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's 11 records officially that
Holy
were
shit.
dropped. And that's not including every cover. So I have like over 500 YouTube uploads. Some of them are re-recordings. So I would probably say it's closer to like 400 like covers of different songs, 350 to 400 or something like that. Yeah, I've been doing it since 2016. So it's been a lot. There was a period I was uploading a video like every 2 or 3 days. Like in 2018 when I like was first living on my own and I was doing it full time, like every 3 days I was uploading a video. During COVID there was like a period where I was like doing a video a day, like straight up, which I don't know if that was the most fruitful thing I could have done, but like for a month I did a video a day, and that was wild. So there's a lot of videos, a lot of covers.
That's crazy. What are the your favorite songs that you've covered?
Some of the favorite covers that I've done, honestly, is some of my recent covers have been some of my favorites that I've done. The Say It Ain't So cover was a lot of fun. That was really cool. There was another one that I did really recently that I was really digging. My brain's like, I'm like, what have I covered recently? Um, this isn't a recent cover, but I covered "What Do the Lonely Do at Christmas" on my Christmas record. It's like a deep cut Christmas song, and it's like a sad Christmas song, which most Christmas songs are like happy and cheery, but that one's just like someone longing to be with someone on Christmas. And I went with like a really like emo grunge vibe with it, mixed with ska and like rock steady reggae. And I was like, that's probably one of my favorite. Like one day I'm gonna write a song that has that vibe because I'm like, that's probably one of my favorite vibes that I've done on a cover. There's some covers I did on Pick It the Fuck Up Volume 2, which was a collaboration with Counterintuitive Records. So like the Origami Angel cover I did on that one was a lot of fun. I did a Maxio cover too, and that one was like an odd like time signatures of like mathy mixed with ska. So those are some other covers that I really did love doing as well.
I gotta say, Felice Navi Ska, that was like my first ever introduction to you. A
That was
couple
the
of
first
years ago.
cover.
I think it was like 2022 or 2023 or something,
Hmm.
but I don't know. I remember that like so like insanely vividly. And like the first time I ever heard it and just seeing like the name of it, I damn near pissed myself just fucking laughing at it. Like it's so like I don't know. I mean, it was just like a really good like first introduction, and it's a very like clear first introduction. Like SKATUNE Network just like covers these songs and just makes them like insanely like funky, like ska, full trumpet and everything. And That's just like a super like nice and good introduction to it. Or I would say like any of your like big covers, like Buddy Holly, Basket Case, all those would also be like a really good like introductory to SKATUNE Network, in my opinion.
Hmm.
That's all I had to say about it.
Or hell yeah. Yeah, I mean, those are all real. I feel like it's been so long. Like, I'm trying to remember when I even covered those songs. When you hit like 500 covers, you're just like, I've done so much. What is even happening right now? Like trying to go through the roster in my brain.
I know this isn't when they were recorded, but I'm gonna look up when they were released on Spotify. I mean, I that'll give like a semi-accurate representation of it, I think.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
a very Scott-tuned Christmas was December 2022. So I think 2022 was the first time I ever heard it, which
yeah.
that's crazy. And that started playing on my phone. Whoops. And then what's the other song we were just talking about?
Was it
Chicago's
the
Emo
like,
Volume 1. That was
yes.
released April 2022. So it was before then.
Yeah, I think I covered those like, yeah, 2019 sounds about right. Maybe 2018 is when I actually did those covers because for a while I remember people asking about me putting stuff onto streaming, but I didn't have the ability to until Counterintuitive Records, they hit me up to do Pick It the Fuck Up Volume 1, which that was released in 29 September of 2019. And then they were like, if you want to get anything else on streaming, just like let me know. So I was like, yeah, I can like get a cover record together. So it was definitely like pre-September 2019 when I was doing some of those covers. Cause like Counterintuitive found me through the emo covers because they're like an emo label. So it like makes sense.
That's really cool. I apologize. My questions have been very like scattered and like that kind of thing. Like some questions would fit really nice back to back with questions I asked a while ago. But
Hmm.
that's my bad. I'm really bad at this.
Oh, you're good.
I'm not ever used to being professional. Like almost every single one of my interviews I've ever done, it's just me sitting down with a band after a show and I just ask them whatever comes to mind.
Hmm.
So they're always very scattered. And even though I have shit written down, it's still very scattered. But I want to ask, when did you start writing originals for JER?
The JER original started like in 2020. I the first one that I wrote and released was actually like demos for Our Edgelord and Message to My Future Self. Those were dropped on the Scotttoon channel like in May of 2020, a part of like a fundraiser, like live stream event. And then um Breaking News was also part of the Ska Against Racism compilation. So those first three singles before Bothered Unbothered all came out around that time. And Bothered Unbothered was supposed to come out shortly after, but like the vinyl delays pushed everything back. Like I remember we recorded the record in June of 2020. We were supposed to drop it like no, we recorded June 2021. We were supposed to drop it in October of 2021. And then we missed the window to get it to the pressing plant by a week. And the pressing then went from like being in our hands in September 2021 to April 2022, just by missing it by a week. Because that's when Adele was pressing like a million copies of her record. And it made every vinyl pressing delayed by a year. So we had to push the record back a year. So by the time like Bothered Unbothered came out, those songs had been recorded for a year. And I was like, I'm already ready to write new music, like and stuff. So this record in particular was also like this record probably would have been out like a year and a half ago if that record was not pushed back a year. But also I'm like, I'm glad the timeline worked out where the current record is. But yeah, it was definitely like summer of 2020 when I started really writing music, or like a little earlier than summer 2020.
That's that's insanely long ago now that I like really think about it. Like that was 5 years ago. Like pretty much to the I mean summer 2025 to summer 2020. Like yeah,
Yeah.
it's 5 years ago. What's changed in that time? Like with your like process or like with the music you write?
I'm definitely a lot stronger lyrically. I feel like the biggest come up I've had, especially from like my first songs in LP1 to now is like the lyrical content that I'm putting out, as well as like the band. When I was writing back then, I was just writing like kind of like by myself, and like I had other people recording on the record, but they would kind of just like put their own little spin and then submit it, or like send me the stems and stuff like that. Where with this record, it was a lot more of us feeding off of each other's energy, and that comes more from like less of the writing process and more of the like recording process and how we recorded the record. Like again, being in a room together and playing things together made the energy feed off of each other in a lot more organic way. And I think the product that has come out of it is significantly better because it feels more organic. There's some moments of earlier songs where I'm like, feel like it feels something about it's just not as organic. The best word I can think of is organic. So,
That's awesome. Um, again, this question would have been great to ask a while ago, but hey, that's my bad. Um, what makes a show better or worse than other shows?
I mean, I think the best shows are always ones where the crowd is really bought in, um, and really hyped on what's happening. Because like, I feel like a lot of people will say, well, it's like the numbers, when we're playing a huge show, it's better. But like, I've played shows to like 500 people, but like, no one, it's like everyone doesn't want to be there. Like, it seems like they don't want to be there. Like, no one's dancing, no one's even giving you like the head bob thing. And then like, after the show, they don't even buy merch and they go home, and then we don't make money, and we're just like, damn, did we just play to a bunch of NPCs or something? But then like we played Toledo last year, and Toledo was one of the smallest shows we ever played because it's Toledo, Ohio. Like who would be there in the first place? And it was like 30 people. But they were popping off. Like they were moving. Same with like Rich. The first time we played Richmond, it was maybe like 50 people, which was like one of the smaller shows that we've played. And everyone was moving and really hype and having a lot of fun. And those shows I remember so fondly because of the amount of energy. So it wasn't even like the size of people in the room, but it's more of like these people are just having a really fun time, and they're really like engaging with the moment. So to me, like the best shows are the shows where I don't feel like I'm being judged by a committee. I feel like I'm actually playing like two human beings who want to experience the art and music and energy that we're giving, and we feed off of each other.
That's really cool. About your live shows, this is like a really dumb question, but like what kind of mosh pits do you have at your shows? Like are they like the kind of like dance pits? Are they more kind of like hardcore shows where people like hit each other? Like I don't
People
know.
are definitely dancing a lot. Sometimes we get like the push pits going on. I feel like with my shows, it's always like an interesting mix, and it can really depend on the bands I'm touring with. And it can depend on like uh I guess like the vibe that is brought, because like I reach a lot of people on like TikTok and like other platforms who may have never been to a show before. So like they don't know like the etiquette. And sometimes I'll play with like other ska bands, and I bring out like people who go to ska shows a lot. So like they already know, like as soon as like the song starts, like a skank pit breaks out. So you have a lot of people who are like, why are people moving, because they've never been to a show before. Sometimes I'll play with like more like DIY like emo bands or hardcore bands or punk bands. So like a push pit or even like a mosh pit will just straight up start. Like we played at like our South Florida show. Like South Florida is a huge hardcore scene. And we have breakdowns in our songs, and so does like the band we were playing with, Omnigun. They're a ska core band. And so like a lot of the kids who went to the show are like kids who normally go to hardcore shows, and they had never seen a ska band before. But as soon as the breakdown started, they were like, we can mosh, and they just start like swinging their arms, and like you can tell there were people who were also there who have never been to a hardcore show, so they were just like, why are people swinging their arms? Like I'm just like, I don't care, everyone's having fun, like no one got hurt or anything, like, and people are hyped. So like it really depends on the vibe, but honestly, like being such a band that has this like um mix of sounds. Like some songs are mine are like hardcore songs, some of them are like emo songs, some of them are ska songs. Having that mix and diversity and playing with diverse songs, like sometimes I play with ska bands, sometimes I play with hardcore bands, sometimes I play with punk bands. So I feel like honestly it depends on the show and the lineup and the city, as to like how the pit looks, because from show to show it can be radically different.
Yeah. Do you ever see like crowd killing at your shows? Like it's really hard for me to imagine like crowd killing to ska, but that also sounds exactly like something I would see at like a hardcore ska show.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you don't get a ton of crowd killing. So I've been to some ska core shows where like People are definitely like going pretty hard in the pit. Like there's a band called Folly, and they're a ska-core band. And when they played Fest, I was like, man, this is one of the most brutal pits I've ever seen. Like straight up, like this might as well be like an FYA Fest show or something like that. But nothing too crazy, honestly. But also like I don't know, I can hang at a hardcore show. I've been to many shows where people are crowd killing and stuff, and I'm just like, yeah, whatever. Like keep swinging, whatever. Guy runs into me, we're on the ground, we get back up, whatever. So definitely see some people go hard at some ska shows, but again, it depends on the type of show.
Yeah, I'm not really experienced with hardcore shows. I've only ever been to one, and it was like a mixed genre show. But every
Hmm.
time I experience like crowd killing, like people crowd kill me, they always go for my camera, and I don't know how to feel about that.
Oh
It's
yeah,
it's scary, but my camera has survived to this day. So,
yo, hell yeah.
but I love seeing crowd killing, and I feel like seeing crowd killing at like one of your shows would be hilarious and also just like awesome at the same time.
Yeah, yeah, I feel that. I mean, it would be hilarious. That's definitely sure, and it depends on the vibe of the song. Because I'm like, yo, like say Gary say goodnight. That song goes kind of hard. So if there's ever a moment to do it, that's probably the part of the set to do it for sure. And like some of the stuff we have on the new record, like even goes harder, and we might be playing some of that stuff live. So I'd be interested to see. I'm always welcoming and challenging the crowd. Like as long as like we're making sure everyone's like okay, and like making sure like if someone falls down, pick them up, like and stuff like that. I'm always down. Like yo, I want the crowd to go as hard as humanly possible. Like that's always my prerogative. Is like go hard, just make sure we're taking care of each other at the same time.
Are you ever like nervous of pits like at your shows or other shows you've seen or like, oh, like is someone getting hurt? Or because you've been to so many shows like playing them or just going as like an audience member. Are you ever like worried about that at shows?
Not necessarily, because I always feel like even when the pits are going, sometimes I look at the pit and I'm like, damn, they're like going hard right now. But then I see someone fall and then like I see 10 people grab them and pick them back up. And I'm like, as long as y'all know if someone falls, pick them up, like I feel like that's a sign of like to take care of the crowd. And everyone's like mutually uh okay with the crowd getting rowdy. Like as long as that's because like people in Florida go hard too. Like whenever I play shows in Florida, I'm like, yeah, y'all are actually going really hard right now. And some places are like that. Like Chicago is like that too. I was like, damn, Chicago, y'all know how to throw down. Um, and some cities are a little more tame. I feel like some cities think they're going hard, but they're not. And I'm like, yeah, y'all could go harder for sure. But I think as long as everyone knows, sometimes I haven't experienced a show that I've played where like someone falls and no one does anything about it. Like the person's just being trampled. I've seen it at shows before, but I haven't experienced it at like a JER show. But I think that's also like reflective of like the audience that is attracted to the stuff that I'm doing and saying.
Have you ever like wanted to just get on a bill with like the most hardcore band possible to see like what people would do during your set?
Oh yeah, I mean, generally speaking, like honestly, like a lot of hardcore music does like inspire me. There's some hardcore bands that we've talked about doing stuff together. Like Soul Glow's talked about wanting to do stuff with us. Destiny Bond as well. Those are two hardcore bands that have been like, yo, let's do something at some point. Um, and I feel like some people might be confused by it. I mean, like Jeff Rosenstock had Soul Glow and Bad Operation open their shows back in February, and there were definitely people in that crowd were Soul Glow who were like moving, and there were like Jeff fans who were like, "What's going on?" Because Hogle is heavy as hell and fast as hell, and shit. And then I feel like for like a Jeff Rosenstock fan who's not hip to that, they're just like, "I don't know what to do right now." And I've witnessed that experience where I'm like, I feel like that'd be the closest thing to like if Jer and Soul Glow played shows together, but also like I know people would be about it too. So.
Yeah. Um, I don't know. That just seems like such like an entertaining thing. Um, On to my next like official question. It just says first versus last versus best show you've ever played.
Oh my goodness. So the first show, what's the first show I ever played? I First show I ever played was with this local ska band. Um, was that the first show I ever played? It was so long ago. It was like 2010. If I remember correctly, the show the show was called Ska's the Limit, which is so funny. I don't know why it was called that. So I think someone was like at the ska show, let's just put ska in the name for some reason. Um, and the band name was a ska pun of a slur. I did not name the band, so I don't want to say the name of the band. It's a slur for Inuit people from very far up north. I think you could figure out what the ska pun in that name is. Um,
I really can't. I'm not that smart.
it starts with an E and it's spelled
Oh, I get it.
Skimo, but instead of an I with an A, like ska. I didn't name the band. They were just like, we want horns, and I was like, I want to play in a ska band when we were 15. Anyway, that was the first show I ever played. Um, and that was a lot of fun, honestly. People moved a lot. It was one of the first, they were probably like first 10 ska shows I'd ever gone to. And then the last show I played was the last show was Camp Pennsylvania. We played Camp Pennsylvania in June. I haven't played a show since then. Um, and the best show, that's a hard one because there's been so many great shows that I've played. Um, I feel like the first ones that come to mind, the first JER Miami show we did was a lot of fun. Um, as well as the first Gainesville show we did. We did both those with Bad Operation, and those shows were awesome. Um, when we played Minneapolis with Vile and Dial Tone and Boy Junior, that was a really good show for the JR band. Um, honestly, our Seattle show was really good when we played Seattle. That's like a top contender. When we played Greensboro with Pollyanna, that was a great show too. Um, and also, we played Charlotte recently. That was also a really good show too. And Jacksonville. The Jacksonville show we played recently was really good too. So, it's like a sporadic array of shows. Um, honestly, most of our Florida shows have always been very good. Now that I think about it, I mean, I'm from Florida, so I have like a lot of roots in this state and stuff. But because we played Orlando at Zero Miles Per Hour, Flash Family, and Overthinker, and that was a very good show too. So yeah, Florida's never let us down. Oh yeah, our other Orlando show is also top contender. I'm just gonna say all of our Florida shows. I know that's not one show that's the best, but I'll say all of our Florida shows, our Minneapolis show, our Seattle show, and the our North Carolina, every North Carolina show we've done has been really good too. So shouts out to those places.
Um, this next question, what's like the best like underground scene you've ever seen? Um, but don't answer one scene that's in Florida. Like I want to hear what you think is the best you've like visited.
I think North Carolina. I think that's the slept on banger scene. Every show I've been to in North Carolina or played has been really good. I saw Pool Kids play in North Carolina. Like, it was actually one of the last shows I went to before. It was February, like late February 2020. So one of the last shows I went to before COVID, and it was just out of a whim. I went to see them with Stress Factors, Michael Sarah Palin. Who else was on that show? They were touring with the Wonder. Oh, Free Throw headlined the show, and then I can't remember the fifth band that was on that show, but it was just a bunch of emo bands from around the Carolinas. And honestly, I would say South Carolina, North Carolina as a whole, like the Carolinas have such an incredible scene, like Newgrounds, Death Rugby, Slow Funeral, Babe Haven, Small Doses, like Peach Rings. Like there's so many bands from that whole Carolinas, and every show I've been to has been like kind of through the roof energy. Everything I've seen from the Carolinas has been so good, and I feel like people don't talk about the Carolinas enough. Like that's a scene where people talk about like Philly, Chicago. People talk about like LA, the Bay Area. People talk about like all of these cities, but I feel like the Carolinas are never in the conversation from what I hear, and I feel like they definitely should be because like all the bands always rip from the Carolinas. People show up, people ride out. Like I've never had a bad time.
That's like really cool to hear about. Do you think that people are like super biased in always thinking that their scene is like the best?
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, people definitely always think that their scenes are the best. And like, I mean, I get that. Obviously, like you're gonna experience a lot more. Some people might go through like I can talk about how much like I love the Florida scene, but like I've experienced the Florida scene way, way, way more than any other scene that I've experienced. And there's sometimes I've been at other scenes where I'm like, damn, some people really get down. Like no ska scene in America gets down like the LA ska scene and like the Latino East LA ska scene. Like no one comes close to that scene, if I'm being honest. Like what they're doing is so sick, and really incredible. So like every scene has their own things that make it shine. And I think it should be less of like a competition of like, well, my scene's the best, my scene's the best, and just be like, we're really good at doing this thing in our scene. We know how to show up. Like I think there's things that Miami and Fort Lauderdale, like the South Florida scene does that no one else does. But I'm not going to say like their shows are objectively the best over like anything else. I just think like for what they do, like they know how to hold it down and like there's just a culture there that isn't anywhere else. Same thing like LA. LA has a culture that nowhere else has. And it's to me it's kind of futile to like try to compare the two in that way.
Yeah, I admittedly I always thought that like Seattle was like the best music city. I was like, oh, like we got Nirvana coming from here, or um, I don't know, other Seattle bands, like big Seattle bands. I cannot remember their names, but like thinking that and then going to Boise and just immediately being humbled of like, oh, like we're nowhere near the best. Or my homies from My Better Half that I talked about a little bit earlier, they went on tour with their twin band Circa 40. And I'm friends with the drummer in My Better Half. And he was always telling me like, oh, like every show was just like continuously getting like better and better. And then he was like, oh, Seattle doesn't have shit on any of these scenes. And it was just like a very like humbling experience,
Hmm.
which I don't know. I'm very happy that there's other scenes that are like so much better. I I'll always wish that Seattle was the best, but I'm also mature enough to realize that like we're not the best. Nowhere's the best, but there's definitely places that are better than others.
Yeah, and like another part of it, something that I've noticed too, is like sometimes you just got to create that for yourself, but also create that for like all the bands. And my opinion is like, who's the best at consistently showing up? Because there's been definitely been times where like I'll go to shows, and even like Florida scenes are guilty of this. Where like I'll go to a show in like Orlando, and I'm like, yo, this is dope. People showed up, and then like I'll go to another show, and like I'm like, where are these 200 kids that just showed up and popped off for like their homies band, but then like this other band tours through and like they're not showing up for them like that. Like I get not everyone's gonna go to every single show, but sometimes I'm like, yo, this show just had like 400 kids at it. Why is this show having like 30 people? It's like, and like some of the bands are playing this show too. And it's like, are you showing up for your homie's band or are you showing up for the show? Or are you constantly showing up for like every show? Because it's always important to like, you can't always just want to go to the big thing. Like, to me, the sign of a strong scene is like no show is bad. Every show has people showing up to it. Like, not every show is going to be the big show, but like if one show has 400 kids and the next show has like 3 kids, I'm like, your scene's not good. You just have a lot of people who are showing up for their friends' specific show.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Like, um, do you have any like experiences at shows that are like downright bad? Like you had like a bad time or like some bad shit like happened?
Any shows where I had like a bad time?
Yeah.
Thankfully, nothing necessarily. There was a show that I just went to once. It was in Gainesville where like a Nazi showed up. Um, and the band, Leftover Crack was playing, and the band opening for Leftover Crack, like they were just on stage. I didn't see the Nazi, but apparently the dude showed up wearing like red laces, like lace code, like white supremacy, or no, white laces, the white laces, the lace code, white supremacy, and like dressed like a skinhead or whatever. And so everyone was like, are you a racist skinhead or are you like a anti-racist skinhead? Because that's always the question. And then he started like yelling slurs on the stage, and I was like, okay, you're a racist skinhead. And like the singer got off stage and literally just like mid-song, mid-line, like just put the mic down, walked off stage, like the D beat's going, like the band's still playing, calmly walks off stage and just like knocks the guy on the head and he just like falls to the ground. He just gets on the ground and just starts like beating the shit out of him and grabs his leg and just drags him out of the venue. And we were all like, and then he comes back in and he's like, yeah, fuck that Nazi shit. And he just continued singing like nothing. Like this dude has definitely done that multiple times before. Like that was not new to that singer.
That's That's fucking awesome. I've seen videos where someone like was in the front row and threw up like the Nazi salute. So the bass player just like takes the bass and just full on like clubs them in the head with it, and then the guy's just like out cold. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's I don't know. I think you're really like lucky to not have experienced like a bad show. I've
Mm-hmm.
experienced. three shows that I would consider like bad, and they were all just like stemming from like different problems. Like something violent happened to me, or it was just like, or one of them. The only problem with it was just the vibes were off, and I just like wasn't having a great time with it. So like that's
Yeah.
the only times I've experienced like bad things. And the time I got harmed, it wasn't like that bad, but someone threw a firework at me and
Oh my
almost
goodness.
almost killed a couple people, but that's besides the point. Don't light off fireworks near a gasoline generator under a bridge. And
Yeah.
this is very like tragic and unfortunate. But in the past couple months, the Seattle scene has seen three deaths at shows, and that's taken a massive toll on
Jesus.
everything. Well, two of them were in the rave scene, which that was very bad, and there was a shooting. Um,
Right.
so like that was like a very unfortunate situation. And then there was another where rest his soul, like this kid like had a really tragic accident. But I'm not gonna talk too much into that and like bring the vibe down. But
Hmm.
like there's definitely problems like that that happen in Seattle. And I'm just kind of glad to hear that like shit like that doesn't happen most other places.
Yeah, and shit like happens in different ways. And stuff. And like there are some like other types of shows where I hear like worse stuff happen. Like I unlocked a memory, like there was a show where like it was a hardcore show and I was like probably 16 or 17 at the time. Where like people were just like moshing really hard and like this dude was like huge, like swung his arm back and like hit this girl on the head and she literally like coughed up blood and like passed out and an ambulance had to come. Like straight up, like she had to go to the hospital from that. And that was gnarly because I saw it happen too. I worked there. So I like saw it happen and I was like, damn, that's really gnarly. So there's definitely been I've definitely seen stuff like that. And I'm sure if I like dug through the archives of my mind or if I got reminded, I'm like, oh yeah, that did happen at a show. Like I did witness that. I feel like I went to so many shows at such a young age. Like by the time I graduated high school, I probably went to over 100 shows. And then even beyond that, I was like going to so many where like I'm sure stuff happened and like in my brain, I'm like compartmentalized back there, like last time this happened when Obama was president. That's a long time ago. Like,
Like you said, this is like a silly little thing I just thought of. Like you saying that like you went to like over 100 shows by the time you graduated. I'm on track to more than double that. I'm at like 50 shows and I'm going into 10th grade this year.
oh my goodness, that's
Yeah,
wild.
I go to a lot and I'm very deaf. Like I don't know if you've experienced the same thing, but the hearing loss is insanely real.
Oh
And
yeah,
the firework definitely fucked up my hearing a lot, but I'm
yeah.
not gonna blame that entirely. It's because I stand front row at like every show, and there's times where I'm like bent over for a picture and my head is like next to the speaker that's playing full volume.
Oh yeah. Earplugs will save your life. I definitely highly recommend them.
They don't work for my ears. Every time I've tried to use earplugs, they fall out. So then I just
I
thought
feel
like
that.
I'll just have enough hearing loss that front row is no longer too loud for me. And
Yeah,
it works.
that's
And now
another
I
way
can't
to do
do
it.
anything. That was just like a silly little thing that I thought of. Um, I don't have any more like big questions to ask, but I do always ask some silly questions. And the silly questions, they're like my favorite to ask because they're like silly little things and like I don't know. Like what's your favorite color?
Favorite color? Yellow. It's
Be
definitely gonna be
specific
yellow.
though, like certain shade of yellow.
Honestly, like a very like this like just primary, straight up like primary color yellow, like McDonald's color ass yellow.
That's that's not bad. Kind of like sunshine.
Yeah.
That's that's one of the better answers I've heard. I've heard puke green before. Um, I've heard brown, and then I ended an interview right then and there. I don't feel bad about that at all.
Yeah.
Um, if you were a cat, what kind of cat would you be?
Ooh, probably be probably I don't know. Something tells me I'm pretty chaotic, so maybe an orange cat, but I don't know. Maybe I'm not that chaotic, but I see what orange cats be doing, and I'm like, that's probably what I'd be doing as a cat. So I'm gonna go with that.
Yeah, orange cat. Me personally, I would choose an orange cat and specifically a stray. I
Mm,
I feel that kind of vibe. I love meeting stray cats on the street. Like whenever I
Oh
find a
yeah.
stray cat on the street, no matter how like timid or not timid they are, I'll always just try to approach them. And if they're super timid, I'll go and get them food, and then I'll just feed them until they like me. And
Oh
if
yeah.
they're not super timid, I probably still get them food, but then I just pet them for a long time. I've I don't know how I haven't gotten fleas or some shit yet, because
Yeah,
those street
right.
cats can be disgusting, but that's
Oh, I
not gonna
know it.
stop me from petting a cat. I don't think anything will, honestly.
Same, there's like cats that live around my house that are strays, but like they're so skittish, and we've been trying to like get them to not be skittish. And maybe one day we'll get there, but I'm like, I just want to pet y'all so badly, please.
Just get them some wet food, and just like if you ever see them on like the sidewalk, like sit down like 20 feet away from them where they can like where they're looking at you, and then just hold what
Hmm.
you can, and then just sit there for a while, just like holding your hand out. That's always worked for me, and that's how I meet a lot of stray cats in my neighborhood. Um,
Hmm.
but also I'm in love with cats. I have 5 cats. Um, they are adorable, and they're my little children.
I
Um,
love that.
if you were a hot dog, what kind of hot dog would you be?
Oh my goodness. Probably a vegan one, honestly.
Are you vegan?
I am vegan.
Ah, that was probably not the best question though. But like what would you have on the hot dog?
I feel like I would definitely would have like loaded stuff out of like garlic and like the whole works, the relish, the mustard, everything. The what is it called? The sauerkraut? Sauerkraut. Or I'll go some sauerkraut.
You know what a Seattle dog is?
No, I don't.
It's cream cheese, grilled onions, um, jalapenos, and then you can get fancy with it and put like sauerkraut or like mushrooms on
Ooh.
it and shit. Oh, and there's bacon on it. But you
Ooh.
can substitute that for vegan bacon.
Yeah, that sounds wild.
That's it's a really good hot dog. Except I don't like jalapenos.
Yeah.
I'm very hungry. I haven't eaten since breakfast.
Yeah, I feel that. Honestly, same.
Um, that was the last of my silly questions. Is there anything else you'd just like to say in general?
Um, no, not that I could think of. I mean, hey, thanks for having me.
Of course. Like, I don't know, this is like one of my favorite things to do. And normally I'll do interviews like after a local show. So it'll
Hmm.
be me just like sitting down for like 10 to like 20 minutes. And like 10 minutes is even like long for some of them. But just being
Yeah.
able to sit down for like this has been an hour and a half. Like it's such like an in-depth, like layered conversation that I
Yeah.
just love it so much. Like, I don't know. Thank you so much for like joining me.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, I do have one more thing. I'm scrolling up in my conversation with my booking agent because I'm gonna leak some information. If I can find it, man, we stay yapping. Hold on. Let me see if I'm also on my laptop, not my phone. Actually, probably just be faster if I go on my phone. Um,
Is this
let
about
me
a Seattle show?
see. It might be about a Seattle show.
Oh
Let me
shit.
see.
Seattle to
Yeah,
anywhere in Washington.
we have it. It's booked. It's definitely. But where is this screenshot? I sent it to my band, so it's definitely in that chat. Um, it's going to be. I would say keep your eyes peeled for March 14th.
That's
It's a
so long from now.
Saturday.
Do
It,
you
it is
know
very long from now. Yeah, but
do
that's
you
what
know
we're
what
booking
venue?
right now. I don't know what venue, honestly, but all
Is
I
it
know
in
is
Seattle or in Tacoma?
it's in Seattle. It is in
Okay.
Seattle proper. That I do know, yeah.
I'll absolutely be at that show. I hope you play a small enough venue that I can bring my camera because that's one of my favorite things to do at shows. But like even if it's a
Oh
big
yeah.
show, I'll still
Yeah, I
be
mean,
there.
just hit me up and like if for some reason the venue's like you can't bring the camera in, I'll just tell the venue like, hey, it's my show. Then you can just bring your camera in.
That's I'm gonna mark that date down on my calendar. That's actually like such good news because I don't know, um there's so many like big bands I want to like see and get interviews with, but like I want to be able to see them like the band Paradox.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
They're gonna be here in October, and I hit them up, but I got no response, unfortunately.
Yeah, I feel
Uh,
that.
I'm gonna keep on trying though. I'm gonna keep on networking, and
Hmm.
hopefully I'm able to get that someday.
Hell yeah, I believe.
But that's such good news. Thank you for coming on here.
Oh
Thank you
yeah, for
so
sure.
much. Like, this has just been like awesome, a very awesome experience and a very insanely memorable experience. Like, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart.
Oh yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me. Thanks for doing this. Honestly, I think it's really cool as someone who was a teenager doing like going to shows and stuff like that. Seeing people who are like super invested in their scenes is always really cool to see. So I love it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure.
The recording just ended.